Hey guys, welcome back. So for today's video, I thought that I would share some cozy mysteries that remind me of the cottagecore concept. Now, if you are not familiar with cottagecore, it's essentially an aesthetic, a lifestyle, a vibe, all of the above, where essentially you are getting back to a simpler time and you are romanticizing everything slow living and nature inspired. Now, obviously, if you go onto Pinterest, you can look up the term cottagecore and come out with a variety of images and concepts and definitions. But honestly, for me, when it comes to cottagecore, there are a few elements I would consider that honestly was the inspiration for me sharing this list of cozy mysteries. Now, those elements kind of are as followed. We've got slow living. Again, that is taking things at a simpler pace, putting your phone down, and instead picking up a book or going on a walk. Also from scratch meals. So instead of diving for like the quick fix drive-through meal, you take your time and you make your meals with love to share with the people that you love. So soups or bread. Obviously sourdough was a big thing during quarantine. What else? Again, communing with nature, going on walks, going on hikes, lots and lots of flowers and mushrooms and vast fields. Again, just being out in nature. And so I feel like honestly, between the cozy mysteries that I've read and the cozy mysteries that I know about, a lot of cozies share the same elements of cottagecore. And I wanted to throw this list together to bring a couple of those cozy mysteries up. That way, if you are into cottagecore or you want to know more about it or you want some cozies that give that vibe, you've got kind of a starter list to work off of. So as usual, let me know if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are. And if you're familiar with cottagecore and you've got some book recommendations that are cozies and can relate to this, drop those in the comments below for us to share with one another. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the books. Okay, so the first book that I have for you is Daisies for Innocence, and that is part of the Enchanted Garden mystery series. So first of all, already starting out with the cottagecore element of a garden, I feel like the fact that it's enchanted adds that extra element of mysticism and fun, which is exactly why I added it to this list. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm not necessarily going to go into depth about the plots of the book, but more so the themes that kind of make it fit into that cottagecore box, so to speak. So for this one, our amateur sleuth actually owns a perfume shop, and behind that is an enchanted garden. There are a couple of books already in the series, but again, I wanted to add this to this list because you are automatically going to get that cozy and cottagecore vibe, because you've got, again, a amateur sleuth whose job is to work with plants, work in this enchanted garden. I think anything related to sense of smell takes you to a certain place as a form of escapism, which is perfect, again, because she owns a perfume shop, and I just think it's really fun. It's very whimsical, so to speak. So if that is something that you are interested in or you want to kind of be charmed, then definitely check this series out. Okay, so this next book, I know I've mentioned on my channel before, but I wanted to bring it up again because I really do think it fits perfectly into the whole cottagecore vibe, and that's Shady Hollow. It's such a adorable and cozy book, and I added it to this list because it deals quite literally in nature. If you're not familiar, this is a cozy mystery series, but all of the protagonists and characters are actually animals instead of people. And so you've got a detective who I believe is a rabbit. Oh, don't quote me on that. But anyway, we've got, again, animals who are characters. Our amateur sleuth is an animal living in the forest, and they are investigating the death of another of their fellow neighbors who, of course, is an animal. And if it's not obvious already, this is definitely cottagecore because of the nature vibes. The setting itself is going to give you that charming forest feeling. You are going to be amongst the woodland creatures when reading this cozy mystery, which, again, that's part of the whole cottagecore mantra, is to spend more time in nature. And honestly, this book hits that nail on the head. I think the second book of the series is already out. If not, it's coming out super soon. So if you like the first book, then definitely check the second one out. And if you haven't read the first book, definitely also check it out, even if you're not into cottagecore, because again, it's super whimsical, very charming, and absolutely adorable. Okay, so continuing the nature-inspired vibes with animals, the next book on the list is The Tale of Hilltop Farm, which again, I feel like I've mentioned on this channel before, but in another concept. This one I wanted to bring up again because it is so closely tied to animals and nature. So this is the first book in the Beatrix Potter mystery series. And if you're not familiar with Beatrix Potter, she is an author who wrote children's books where the characters are animals. And so of course they are going about their daily lives and doing stuff like that. But in this one, we've got our fair friend Beatrix Potter helping to solve the mysteries of these animals in the forest, which again, similar to Shady Hollow, you are interacting with woodland creatures, which is absolutely adorable and charming. It's very feel good, and so I know that of course you guys are probably watching this because you're familiar with cozies, but for those of you who aren't, it's kind of an oxymoron, at least it seems like it, with the word cozy and mystery. But honestly, despite a mystery or death happening in the book, the series, or the books rather, are really charming and cozy because of the descriptions, and that's exactly what you're getting in books like this. Again, touching on the cottagecore element because of the reverting back to nature, but it's just all around feel good, which is exactly what you want when it comes to a cozy mystery. So this next one, oh my gosh, you guys, adorable. And so I for sure had to include it on this list because it fits the cottagecore vibe to a T, and that is the Fairy Garden Mystery Series by Daryl Gerber. The first book in the series is called A Sprinkling of Murder, and as you can tell from the title of the series, it takes place at a fairy garden shop. And so what I mean by that is literally our amateur sleuth owns a shop that specializes in building little enchanted fairy houses for people. It's part that and then also part tea shop, which that also touches on the whole cottagecore vibe because you've got your cozy warm drinks, and again, that's just super cozy, very cottagecore. And again, with the fairies, I think that that is so whimsical and fun, and there's a little bit of magic sprinkle in there. There are a few books in the series, so if it's something that you're interested in, you can keep reading about it, but I just love this vibe so much. I mean, honestly, again, I know the cottagecore vibe and stuff like that really varies from person to person, but when I think of cottagecore, I do think about like communing with nature and stuff like that, but I also think like, you know, little touches of everyday magic, whether it's figuratively or literally. Those are the kind of things that I feel you would experience when you are romanticizing this lifestyle or really stopping to look around you and being in the moment. And books like this really conceptualize that vibe, and I just love it so much. So I definitely recommend adding this one to your list. Again, not even if you are wanting something specific to cottagecore, but if you're just wanting something fun and magical and all around cozy, this series is it. Next up, we have Murder in the Mystery Suite. This is one of my favorite series. It's the Book Retreat series by Ellery Adams, and I read this a while ago because we are some books deep into the series, but when the first book came out, I gobbled it up, and to this day it's one of my favorite cozy series for a couple of reasons. And coincidentally, all of them kind of fit into that whole cottagecore vibe. So let's kind of go down the list, shall we? So before we start off, the whole concept is that we've got this retreat for book lovers, and what that means is that they come to this kind of B&B, and they get away and just spend their whole vacation reading books and talking about bookish things and really just like absorbing everything related to the written word, which if you're a book lover sounds like the ideal experience, right? So First of all, we've got that whole slow living thing. Anytime that you are reading in favor of maybe like watching TV or scrolling on your phone, to me that constitutes as slow living. You really take time to like absorb yourself into the story, and naturally, if you're coming to this book retreat, that's exactly what you're doing all weekend, right? The second thing is the location. So this one is actually, the retreat itself is set in kind of like this bookish fairy tale town, and you'll have to, if you don't have one of the books, you can probably find an image of it on Google or something, but there's a map in the beginning of the book pages for each of the books in the series that gives you an outline of what the town looks like. And so you've got this book retreat, of course, which is where everything takes place, but then you've got these other shops that have these really punny fairy tale related names, whether it's like the gift shop or a restaurant or coffee shop or something like that. They all have this like fairy tale vibe, because the concept is that this town, again, gives visitors this experience in which you are living in a fairy tale, which again, very cottagecore, because it's rural, kind of off the beaten path. It's obviously not in the big city, which is another element for a cozy mystery in general. But again, I just think that it's so fun. I think it checks off the list for cottagecore, because you are at this secluded retreat surrounded by books and forced to kind of slow down, take everything in, you know, maybe go for a walk in the gardens with a book, for a picnic, all of that, which honestly sounds ideal, guys. So needless to say, I highly recommend this series. We've got, like I said, quite a few books at this point, since it's been some years since it was first published. So definitely recommend picking it up. It's just so fun. And then on top of that, I'll just leave you guys with this. There is a twist in the beginning of the first book that kind of carries on throughout the rest of the series that I, as a cozy mystery reader, I did not expect it. I didn't see it coming. And so it added a little something extra, and it makes it stand out from other cozies that talk about books or are bookish cozies or themed. Okay, so last up in our cottagecore cozies list, we've got Farm to Trouble, which is the first book in Amanda's Farm to Table mystery series. And honestly, the name of the series itself kind of alludes to what makes it cottagecore. I mentioned from scratch cooking, and Farm to Table is essentially the quintessential concept of from scratch cooking, because you are, you know, literally taking your food fresh from the garden and making something from there with love to serve to your friends and family at the table. And so this mystery series is focused on a farm that our amateur sleuth works on. Again, the idea is that they do pick from the farm, make meals, serve it up to friends and family, etc., etc. And I just think that that's so cool. I know, you know, sometimes things like that can seem very trendy, and honestly, for me, I don't care if something is a trend or not. If somebody finds that it is something that they can incorporate into their lifestyle that makes them happy or fills a void that they have been looking for, more power to them. It doesn't matter how you've come across it. It doesn't matter if it's trendy or not. Do whatever makes you happy. And so that, to me, essentially is also a concept when it comes to cottagecore. You know, if you enjoy taking the slower moments to make something, whether it's the aesthetic sourdough bread that you saw on TikTok or something else, hey, do it. At the end of the day, it's all about what makes you happy. And if it, you know, makes you feel good and allows you to spend time with friends and family, or romanticizing those everyday parts of your life, then go for it. So I didn't mean to get preachy there, but I did want to mention that, because again, the whole cottagecore concept has really been, you know, all over social media, and sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's portrayed as kind of like, oh, I don't want to be trendy, but you know, hey, at the end of the day, we could probably all use some outdoor time, going outside, being in nature. It's good for the soul. And honestly, that's what this whole list is about. That's what reading is all about. And so again, that's kind of why I wanted to share this list with you guys. Okay, so there you guys have it. I hope that you guys walked away with some books that could fit into the whole cottagecore concept, if that's something that you're into. Again, like I said, even if you're not, these are just really fun books that epitomize the concept of cozy, and I love them. Honestly, that's really all that I can say about it. So hopefully you did too, or you do if you haven't already read them. Like I said, if you've got some extra suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. In the meantime, happy reading, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!